Okay, how are you there, guys? Just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Been fussing around with my computer a bit, so I may have stuffed a few things up. Just want to make sure we're all coming through nice and clearly. Okay, hope we're all doing well. Had a great weekend. How you going there, Paul? Helen? Hope you did well. Yeah, you're going to be a busy beaver now, Paul, aren't you? No, fantastic. All right. How you going there, John? All right, we'll get into it. So what we'll go through today, just the usual, have a look at the markets. I'm a bit surprised in the open today, to be honest. I didn't expect it to be too strong, but it's kicked up quite strong. It's gone through a key little level on the S&P. Sorry, the SPY. What am I talking about? The S&P. SPY 200 futures, and that's kicked on strong on the open today and washed out a nice level, went straight to a resistance. So it'll be interesting to see how we go from here. We'll have a look at the ASX, obviously. It looks like it's still that rangy type of price action. Not much happened on Friday night. I think payrolls were a little bit disappointing, but I think traders are pretty much factoring in that, considering what's happening with the last previous hurricanes. And I think there's another storm building potentially into a hurricane. So, yeah, that's good, Paul. I don't think they change, mate. Mine are two little terrors now. They just get faster and moving around. They get you quicker. Yeah, as I say, the US, not a lot. There's another storm brewing that could affect oil, and I think that's what's knocked oil on the head. It was down nearly 3% on Friday night. Don't know how that'll go. That could, if it does turn and go back out to sea, you should see oil kick back up again. But we'll see how that plays out, whether that's going to affect a few things. I think well and truly a rate rise has been factored in. I think it's somewhere around 80 to 90% factored in for this December rate hike in the US. So not much is deterring that at the moment. Payrolls, I mean, they weren't a little bit less than expecting. They weren't expecting that much anyway. Like I said, mostly it's factored in regard to Irma and what was the other one? Henry. No, I can't remember. One of the hurricanes anyway. So yeah, a bit of a quiet. Even they backed off slightly, but only really slightly below break even. They still put on some gains for the week, so it capped off the week with a negative end, but it was still a positive week all up. We'll take a look at now. Or before we go on, anyone that's new, welcome to TradeSetup to start with. If you listen to this later on, we've got our top left-hand corner. You can join us at Twitter. So if you follow us on Twitter, we'll be doing a few bits and pieces also, just things that we like that we want to follow. We'll be forwarding them on or liking them. I don't know what the words are called. I'm actually not such a young bloke. So I'm learning slowly all this sort of stuff. But we'll be liking things that we think are worthwhile. So if you like us or link into us on Twitter, that'd be great. Facebook, the top right-hand corner, which is really just, I think Twitter's the best one, to be honest. Facebook, just we do a post every now and then. And, of course, bottom right-hand corner, if you subscribe to us on YouTube, you pretty much get anything we go live with. You'll see that. We're going to be doing a few more talks going forward also. We're going to be building our database there and just try to do a few more as we get a bit more organised. Busy times at the moment, so that's all good. Also, the general advice warning you'll see just there. Give yourself some time to read that. All right, guys, we'll get into it now. I will put on my pretty face. What I'm going to do, too, with these going forward will change. I know you can see in the top left-hand corner. I'm actually looking straight at the screens, and the camera is just down on the left. We're going to change that a bit and put a nice little backdrop. We're going to get printed up. So it's going to be looking a little bit more professional going forward. So that'll be nice. So you get a bit more understanding of what we're looking for. A different view of myself, I guess, which would be nice. Change things up a bit. So you can see the market's up 45 at the moment. Very strong for the day, to be honest. Didn't expect that. Let's just look at the ASX. Actually, let's go through all of them. XJ right here. See, it's just... let's just go, probably the year might be better, won't it? And thick. Yeah, you can see it's just kicking up. So that little resistance at 57.50. Where are we now? 56, so 6 points above that. Could back off there by the end of the day. Again, it's just every couple of days the picture's looking slightly different. It's definitely stuck within that range. You can see it's just building. It's quite clear. We just draw that up. I'll bring that across here. You can see it's just stuck through that sort of support, just around that 56.50 mark. You've got these lower highs still holding, which means that we still got room to move up to, and I'm suggesting if we probably pop our head up to there, what was it, 57.80? Oh, just see where that high is. 57.77. We could still hold within, just those lower highs, and it's just a bit of a grind at the moment. It's tough times to put on some gains. We've got a couple that are triggered today. We'll go over in a minute. They're quite good. They look quite positive, but if this market just keeps chopping around, I think it's all about prime setups more than picking your big ones, the big moves like the banks, your big miners, BHP and stuff that are really pretty much wherever the ASX goes, they're going. It's the little ones that I think, well, the smaller cap, mid cap, smaller cap that are really giving the good gains at the moment. Oh, there we go. Yes, that's the ASX. I mean, we could just be banging around here until the US does something. It looks like we're going to continue to do the same. We're just going to continue to do that. Now the Dow keeps kicking on strong. Not much to talk about there from when we spoke on Thursday. We've got the S&P. That's the S&P 500. Again, same sort of thing. It didn't make new highs. It was sort of stuck quite narrow range. It is extended up here. You can see stochastics is looking a little bit extended. It doesn't mean it can't keep going, like we say. It's just that move up from that base of around 24, 25, where it contracted lower, held the trend, built a higher low on the weekly, and then it's just grind higher. Let's just see what the weekly's showing. But realistically, it's not. That's an extended move up, isn't it? But it's still, when you probably dragged it out a bit, in perspective, say it's probably a tough one to pick that. That's that little high low. We've had this high lows all the way up until we got to around that above 21.50. Reacted off those highs. That was towards the end of 2015, start of 2016, and we've been heading higher since. So if you extend it out, we potentially got a long way to go, but we'll see. I don't like to say that too much, but S&P FTSE, that's positive at the moment. You can see that's just kicked up. It's right on this sort of resistance zone, which you could easily back off. What's the highs on that one? The highs are 74.60, 74.69. So it's pushed a few points through that high. That's at lower high, sorry. And the next sort of port of call is really up to 75.50. I would ideally like for the FTSE, if you're trading that, to see a higher low build, a bit of a pullback. Wash out some of these buys through here, especially the last few days. Wash them out, build that high low, and then that could lead to a move right up to the highs at 76 on the DAX. That's still looking good either way. Sorry, that was a FTSE, wasn't it? DAX now, right up in the highs still. So we're going to just watch carefully to see if it reacts off these highs, or we just keep grinding away high day after day if they follow the US up. That's about it there, guys. All I want to chat about, either way, the markets are quite positive. We're the only one that's really just going sideways, which is annoying as hell if you're trying to trade it. It gets a bit choppy sometimes. But yeah, that's what we're presented with at the moment. You just trade what you see. So the two today, before we go over, I haven't got a lot planned. What we're going to go over is just remember the NWR communications that I think we sent it out to a few on Thursday, maybe last Monday. So anyone that wants that again, I think I've sent it out to Clement and Helen, you might have got it. I'm not sure. Anyone who actually wants that, I'll show you what I'm talking about if you don't know. Where are we? I'll open this up. Where is it? Here we go. View online. So that's the... So this is what I'm talking about. They cover a lot of... It's more of a sort of a media company, but they got some good coverage over some good good little companies that... Just find them. If the news flow continues to be good and they keep promoting it, it's worthwhile keeping an eye on, because some of these, when they go, they can really rock it. So I've got a few that... I mean, Perseus is not... I'll show you that in a minute, actually. It's worth looking at because it looks good on the daily, and you flick it over to the weekly, it doesn't look as good. Oh, sorry, sorry, Helen. So this is a company called NWR Communications, where we get this report every Friday. I think it's Friday morning, and we just tweet it through on Twitter on Friday, and it's worth just having a look at. They do a couple of, like FZO, some of the companies they follow. They're getting a bigger list. It's more of a media. They'll pump out in this report on what sort of news flow has been coming out on each of these stocks. And if you pair them up, if you're getting some good news flow and you pair that up with some good technicals, then there's some, because they're not massive companies, there's some smaller plays. They can really give some good gains. So if you got back both in your sales, some of the news flow and the technicals are really backing up some price appreciation. Really, that's all you want. These are the kind of companies that can really go hard. Perseus, like I was just saying, that's we'll have a look at that in a minute. It's not that one. FND, I've got on the list. That doesn't look so bad. Had some good media coming out over the week. So when they put this out, by the way, this report out comes once a week. Comes out once a week. The news that's come out is just what's happened during the week. So it's worthwhile just going back, look at what's happened on the week, and just going back on some of the reports, some of the news flow that's coming out about these companies, if you like it anyway. NUS, that wasn't one. WAF was another one. Just here, West African Resources. I think it's a bit early, but some of the news you can see, pay dirt, WF, the envy of juniors, just some of those sort of news headlines that are coming through are quite good. So all that's going to do is really just build that story. And you print Z&O. Yeah. Yeah, it comes out on Twitter there, Paul. And I'll also forward it to you if you like. There's no problem. I can forward this on to you. Anyone else that wants it, just maybe shoot an email to support@tradesetup.com.au, and I'll just reply linking this in. No problem. Nandor, yeah, I'll have a look at ZNO actually. Let me write these down just so I don't forget. All right, so they're the ones, and MEB, that's a big one that they're following. They quite like that one. And there's a few others there. I haven't gone down that far by the looks of it. TTT is a new one they've been following. I think it's a bit earlier on for that stock, especially for a lot of you. Only floated probably a week or two ago, I'd say. But anyway, NTI, I've actually got NTI. I like the story. It hasn't gone well since I got it, but they had a really strong push up when the last news announcement came out. They're around 20 cents at the moment. They pushed up to about 30 or so, and they're straight back down again. So it may be earlier on for this company, NTI, but it's worth, with some good news coming out, it's worth just taking a look at those charts, because like I said, when they go, they go. That's probably about it. So you can see there's quite a few on there, actually. Quite a few stocks to have a look at. So I'll go over just the couple that, before we get into it too much, FND, and I'll actually put that on another chart. FND. So you can see that's pretty much what we want to see. You can see the market, bouncing around here, had a push down, built that low, whether it was a high or low on a weekly. Was it at 16? So yeah, it's a high low on a weekly, I think. Yep, it is. So you can see that weekly's pushing up, and that's from pretty much the start of 2016. It's pushed up. You've broken this trend down. You've broken that anchor level really around that 16 mark. Sellers were pretty much well in control there. And then we had to turn about face, really. Turn around, broke through that lower high there. Buyers really soaked up the pressure from the sellers, pushed it back up. Sellers tried to jump back in again. It was just soaked up by those buyers. So the buying demand was quite high, it looks like there. We built that high low, and we started running up pretty much from the start of this year. Held a little high low. So that was a beautiful little entry as far as they go, just in this zone. You can see about mid this year, and they've had a good appreciation right up to 25. Buyers really accelerated. We're going to probably have a bit of reaction up there. You can see around that 25 mark, previous highs. Let's go back one more step. But in essence, it actually doesn't look too bad at all. So that's ideally what you want to see from here. If I'm looking to get involved, I just want to see, with that's been a good move up, from say 17 to 25 cents. I'd like to see a bit more of a wash out of those longs, those late longs, and a bit more, but hold the highs, so between 22, 24. You chop around in there, and then we can see if you can lift and have that secondary leg up, potentially the same as that leg up, say from 17 to 25, about 8 cents. If you can get up from, somewhere around that 30 mark to 35 mark, that'd be great. But that's, with the news flow, that's quite good. The news flow is good, yeah, but the technicals actually support it. That looks not too bad. So that's one we like out of that report. WAF is another one that I think that doesn't look that great. It looks like it could build a lower high, and you can see the MAs across. It has been sold down a bit. It has bounced off there, but if you just flick it back, this weekly doesn't look so bad. You can see it spent a lot of time doing nothing, just grinding its way lower, lower lows, lower highs, as sellers just wanted to get out. Buyers, the demand from buying just wasn't there. Something's changed at the start of 2016, pushed it all the way up to 45. A lot of that buying supply has just been pushed back out of the market, especially the late buying, say I'd say above 30, above 25, above 30. They've been pushed back out of the market, put back on the sidelines, and you've had this push down, pop back up, push down to retest those lows, and we've been holding a little high low here. So right up until this sort of chop through here, you know, around that 35 to 37 mark, it was looking quite good. It'd be interesting to see what happens from here. So ideally, looking at that daily chart, if I was going to be more bullish on this one and wanting to something to buy into, I'll draw it in a second. I would ideally look for, you can see we've got a bit of selling pressure in here. You can see it was just gradually easing in, probably bias from this zone in here, this higher low. This level was broken, so we may get a bit more contraction. You can see we've pushed down here. Just draw that up. From the highs, we've popped back up through that support, and then I'd like to see another washout. So that secondary leg lower, because it's still got your major support down around that 18 mark. So it's got a lot of room to move lower. Wash these players back out of the market, put them back on the sideline, just really to increase that demand of buyers that are ready and raring to go to jump back in the market. And then ideally you'd like to see, say something like that, a bit of contraction, but hold some higher lows, and then, you know, it's all really about the entry setup then, and potentially that next leg high that's going to take you up and through 38. But that's my take on WAF. Has anyone traded WAF? I know it's been quite a favourite for a lot of people in the past. Has anyone got it? Anyone like it? Anyone agree with me? If you disagree, don't say anything. If you agree, tell me I'm a legend. Where's Dav when you need him? All right. The last one, just quickly, that is on their list, which I actually don't mind, is Medibio, MEB. Again, the pronunciation problem. All right. So the market, you can obviously see, is pushed down. You can probably discount that. It's been sort of choppy, really, I guess, between that 50-cent mark and 20. But what it's done recently is held these high lows. I think there's been a bit of a, what do you call, legacy seller, I was told, chatting to someone about this. So someone that's had quite a bit they want to get out of, and it's just been consistently solid, selling it down. Really just capping the market from really getting out of hand, and I think that's cleared out at the moment. So really that selling pressure or that selling demand or selling supply is being worked through at the moment, and you can see that if that's the case, then the market's held it up. It's held up this high low in here, another little high low. Go back to the daily, just in here, just sort of around that 32 mark. But what we've seen, the good thing about, there's a couple of good things about this, and what I do like, as okay, the story's good. I think it's come out with some good news, or recently it's had some good news flow. That 40 mark was probably the key, and you see we pushed up through there. At this stage I wouldn't have bought it. It's pulled back, we built that high low, and we've gone back up again, and we've sort of been capped at around that 44 at the moment. The thing is with this, I think they've done a really good roadshow. They've had NWR has done a bit of a roadshow on this, the broker roadshow. So what they've got out to is just talked about the story with the brokers, and if the brokers seem to have liked it because it's kicked up since, you've had this little run up to 44. So if that's going to be supported by the brokers, which is in turn, it's got further exposure to clients. Clients might be following the story. You probably, what's really happened from my perspective, the way I look at that is that the demand, the supply ready to go in, the buy side supply has increased because you've got a wider audience, you've got more people following it, maybe taking time to read about the story, and the technicals aren't looking too bad at all. It's actually looking quite good. So probably a bit more work to do, maybe a bit of chop, a bit of pullback around that 37 mark, you know, just to wash out a few of these people as well, but still holding a high low. If we can get that high low, maybe around that 35 mark, 36, whatever, over a bit of time, then I think they can hold up and push up through 44, and it could start a nice little leg higher, especially if the news keeps coming out to be good, to support that appreciation in price. Sounded quite smart then, didn't I? Anyway, that's it from what I liked off those reports. what we'll do now, so the two, I'll just quickly go over. Any questions on those guys? Or is anyone following those stories as well? Just while I have a look at what's going on. Market's still up 42. We've got AUB. Don't like that so much, but you know, we've got a dividend. I think we're somewhere around. We're not far off break even on that, to be honest, and I wouldn't be surprised if we just decide to take it off. About 10 cents down off that, but 0.5% down on AUB. Unless it can't, if it can't kick up, we'll probably just get out of that. Especially, well, if it turns around and pushes down through 12.40, we've got to stop at 12.40. I just wouldn't mind if it can kick up, just getting out of that closer to break even. You know, that 13.20 mark. If you had a little spike, it's just that doesn't look bad. That price action, you can see it's just these last few days were really choppy. For whatever reason, I don't know, and I don't like to think that some news is coming out that we don't know that someone else has known, and it's not good, and then it gaps down. That's the only thing I'd be wary about. But anyway, that's one we've got. The one we got today was APT. That looks great. You can see that's a daily chart. This one we've had before, but when it was under a different name. I'm just got to find out what the name was. AFY, they changed codes to APT. They relisted it to APT, and then we got out somewhere around $3, which was stupid in hindsight. A lot of time did nothing, just went sideways for a month and a half or so, and they've obviously come out with some good news. You've had that little leg up, consolidated around those highs around 380, had another little leg up, pulled back down to wash out, and we've had this high-low build, and we're just looking for that. Once we pushed up today through that 440 mark, we're looking for that to continue. See if that can continue. We've got it in at 441, so pretty much stopped into the market, and it's backed off since, but I think that price action is looking quite good. If we can get a couple of strong days and we can get another high, pushing up through 480 and just continuing on, I think that'll be a really good little one. But either way, that price action is quite clear there on its way up. So that was a new one off today. A bull sandwich. Which one were you talking about, Helen? Was that APT or the one just before? AUB. It's a bull sandwich, yeah. It makes a lot of sense now. Probably me, I'm full of bull. Anyway, so we got that one there. That's we've got another one B&O, which has pretty much done nothing. We got in somewhere around here. Nice, it was looking great at the start, and since then it's done absolutely nothing. So, I mean, the price action is still looking good. It's just this 50 level that might be getting a bit of selling. But you can see if we can hold up above around that 56 and push back up and take out 48, 47.5, 48. I think it could look good for another move up to 50. If not, and look, it might be time to call it a day on that one, but we'll see. Price action hasn't broken just yet. That structure is still holding to the upside. It's just, lately, it's just not looking as good. What else we got? Can. Looking good. Actually looking nice. Is that all of it? Let's just get over here. 2 more to add to that. Oh, didn't think that was everything. Sorry guys, just oh, that looks nice. Bud's one to keep an eye on, guys. Just quickly, that structure looks good. I won't be able to send out an alert, but if you're watching it, just look at this price structure. It's pushed up. You've had a bit of a washout, and we're starting to hold higher lows again. So that's looking good for an inside continuation, like we've talked about before, just through the high of 25, which is right on there now. So just keep an eye on that one. I think that when you get these type of price action, these sorts of things, it's had a big run up there. I know that. It's a funny looking chart anyway. But it's had that big run up, another little spike higher. I wouldn't be surprised if we get this secondary spike higher like previously. Spike up, maybe through 30 or so. It's a good few % gainer on that one, potentially, if that happens anyway. A lot of time washing them out all the way back down. And then we've had this little, good, strong move up. So on the back of some good news, I'd say. What it's done though, I like that when it's run up, but it holds around the highs and starts holding some higher lows again. That's always a nice little sign that that buying pressure is really strong. There's still quite a bit of supply out there of buyers ready to jump back in, or ready to jump in at these higher prices and push it up. But keep an eye on that one anyway. What was I talking about? So Can is another one we've got. Looks good. That price action looks good. I'm looking for it to get through 150. I'd like it to get through 150. I think the weekly, look at that weekly structure. that could easily spike up through 150. It could go right up to $2 easily, just looking at that. So taking it from that low to high, that's about $1. You add $1 onto $1.10, easily up through 2. If that's the case, that'll be your secondary leg up on the weekly chart, but just have to see how this daily goes. I wanted to see it, if it can grind up through these, just up towards these highs and hold, I think that sooner or later is going to get a bit of acceleration through those highs around 150. We'll see. Qantas is another one, still ticking away, 620, 619 at the moment. I think we've got that just below 6. That's been going good. There's still quite a bit of buying coming in there. There's nothing to say it's easing up at the moment, so that's great. Gem, not so great. That's about where we got in, about a cent below. 420, I think, where we got in. 419 is the current price. But that's, still that price structure looks good. If it goes through 4, then something's wrong. We don't quite like it, but I think that could easily kick on, especially after it's taken out that 420 level. Had a little spike through there previously, pulled back, held that high low, and it's been grinding its way, and you got that acceleration through. So it may just be another wash out of that high, but it looks like it's trying to engineer a move higher. We'll just look on that weekly chart, and you can see we're nowhere near those highs of 560. It's spent a lot of time washing them out, holding that base, even a wash out here, another higher low. So that weekly chart's actually looking pretty good, pretty decent. We'll just see if we can kick on from here. I think that's about it. Might have been the new one we got in today, if I can remember. RMD. We'll just show you that. So that's a new one today. That's really that inside continuation trade just through that high at 994, I think it was. And we're about that, well, cent below that now, cent or two below that now. So that's looking good. Again, that weekly structure is clearly up on the rise. I want that inside to lead us through that 1050 mark, potentially extend that 1050 mark, 1075 say. We'll just see how it plays out, but all in all, not too bad. Yeah. True, Helen, looking good. So let's open it up a bit now. We've done about half an hour. We've got a couple to start off with. Paul, just want to take a look at, was it Linus? LYC, we'll kick it off with. So feel free, we've got 3. We're going to start off with Linus, LYC, SHV. I think that was another one. That was yours, Helen. I think I'm going to be doing a bit of bragging there, so we'll put it up there for you. ZNO is something you want to look at, Nandor. Anything else you want to look at, guys? Just chuck the code into the chat. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be stocks. It can be like FX, whatever. If we can get it up, we'll have a look at it. More than happy. John, if you've got anything, just chuck it in there, mate. Well, let's start off with, what was the first one? Linus. Now, it looks, that weekly, I mean, there's no getting around it. It looks quite good. It's all right. So now what do we got here? So this is Linus. So this is for Paul. He's got this one. It's doing great. We completely buggered this one up, to be honest. Got stopped out at here, so pushed it up through that 10 mark. Got out 11. So good little gainer, really. But I mean, look at what it could have been. It was over 100% gainer, or more than that now. 120% we would have been up on that one if we were holding and just following below these. And that was just a stupid case of, I mean, everyone knows what happens, when you push a price, when the price goes through that 10 mark, it goes from 0.01 to 0.05 increments. So a lot of the time they can push it through and then they just it can basically drop off since then. So I was a bit wary that was going to do that. It pushed through that 10 mark and just see it could have just pushed back down. So we took that partial off at around 11 or so, and then really it was just a case of having that stop way too tight. In hindsight, it was easy to say, but that was way too tight. Should have given it a bit of room. If we gave it a bit more room, even below this little high-low here, if you can see that, let me just stretch that in. Below that little high-low would have been great. I mean, we would have kept this one, then just following it, drag it up here, potentially drag it here again, drag it here. I guess you'd be somewhere around 17 at the moment, because that's sort of that key high-low you'd want to be just below with your exits, your stops, if you're trying to follow it up. Otherwise, if you're really just trying to see where it could go, well, there's not much The next port of call is probably that little high there, 22.5, which is roughly where it is now. It's a cent below that now, so it may be a bit of reaction off this level. This is the only reason why, considering what's happened too, just looking on the daily, I wouldn't want to buy it just yet. I would like, we call a complex correction. So does everyone, this is a quick technical tidbit, or a supply demand tidbit, or what we talk about is more of complex correction. So we know there's a key level, say up at this 22.5, so we might get a bit of reaction there. I don't want just this is your key level 17.5. I don't just want a little spike through, pull back, and then go again. I think this leg is quite stretched into this resistance zone. That's your key anchor on your weekly. This is what we call a complex correction. You can see the market gets extended, gets a bit ahead of itself. The market has a bit of a pullback. That's like a continuation pattern if we take out the highs. Since we don't, we build that lower high, then you get lower low, lower high, potentially it chops around, another lower low, pops back up, retest that low. That there is a complex correction. That's what I'd ideally like to see. Even if it washes out up to 23, for me to enter, I would rather see it push back up and then get this complex correction. What that's doing is washing out some of these, these buyers that have bought in, have got lucky enough to buy it right through 10, maybe, that pop up through 11.5. They just want to lock in some gains. And then from there, I'd like to see it hold up, with some higher lows, and that giving me another entry. That's what I'd like to see. It's going to potentially give us a better price. If not, if it's all around 20, so be it. If it holds up around these highs between 19 and 20, and you get some little higher lows trying to pressure down, well, let's try to draw it up. More of this. So that's our, I don't know, can you see that, what I'm drawing there? Yep, you can see that. Right over to the left. If we start getting this price action, I don't care, as long as it can hold up, because that's still evidence that buyers are stepping in. They're happy to step in above that anchor at 7.5. They're happy to soak up that selling pressure, and then potentially that could lead to just a smash through 22. But you want to see time. It's all about sort of that time then, maybe a month or so, a few weeks to a month. If it can do that type of price action, it holds these higher levels, and then I think they could really punch up. But I think right now, yeah, I wouldn't buy it. And potentially I wouldn't add, Paul. I'd just be a bit wary. I mean, you can always add, and it could roll over and come all the way back down. Then you end up going for a nice positive position. I'd be more inclined to halve my position probably, just depending on what you want to do, mate. We all trade differently, so if you're building a nice position, you really see there's potential. I mean, God knows, look at that weekly chart. There's a lot of potential on the weeklies. Look where it's come from, right up at $1. You could build a nice little position. That weekly looks great. I mean, there's no way around it. It looks really, really nice. Anyway, just to cap it off, I think that weekly move up, which is this one, it's just getting a bit ahead of itself. I think you'd probably want to see a bit of buying coming in. Sorry, a bit of selling pressure coming in here, just to start flushing out these people, putting them back on the sidelines, just for more of that supply to get ready and raring to get back into the market. If this has soaked up a lot of the buying supply, then who's left sort of on the sidelines ready to push it up, to continue to push it up. You just need that new market, that new amount of people, the new buyers, the new supplier buyers, I guess, to really come into the market ready to kick it up and ready to buy it at higher prices for that to continue on. If you don't see that happening, potentially that's where that complex correction comes into it. Yeah, no, good on you, mate. It looks, you've done well on that anyway. You kicked my butt, really. All right, next is SHV. Time for a brag there. There you go, Helen. Look at that. What's happened on that anyway? Select Harvest. So they've obviously kicked up on your back in news. Select Harvest placement and share purchase plan. All right, so that's good. So back, that news has taken really well. So the only thing is going smack straight into that. It's closed the gap completely. And then you've got this gap to worry about now. Look at it. Weekly looks good. So that's pretty much come off a key level at 4. That little washout. That little washout here, that's nice. And you can see that accelerated 2 days, bang, it turned and reversed. Once it got through that $4 mark, it just turned and reversed. So that's a little heads up that maybe there's something happening. Say no more. Exactly. I mean, who's to know that was going to happen? But yeah, that's a cracker. If you got onto that, if you managed to pick that for whatever reason, intraday, that's great. That's great. Well done. There's not much to talk about this, really. I know Helen just put it up to brag, so rubbing it in. ZNO. Let's take a look at that for you. This is another one where the weekly... Oh, we had this earmarked a while ago. And that, if you can get it back, I think we sent this, I don't know, it was probably a month ago, probably less. Let me just see when the, really another little stuff up in buying. I think at the time when that came out, when we're looking at it, it gets hard to go and gets it was looking like a negative market coming out of that trade, and just wanted more confirmation. So that's the alert there. That was off 21. So where are we now? 41. So it was around that 30 mark. So, all right, get rid of that. Let's just drill in what's happened. So that weekly chart again, it's just that little move up. It's starting to get a bit ahead of itself. You know, you've had this sort of contraction lower, held the high low through 21. It's starting to build. You're holding these little high lows of this leg up. So we're just talking about this current leg up from 22 up to 46 at the moment. So you really got to sit back and assess it. Really, is it getting a bit stretched in that leg? Within that leg, are we expecting more of that complex maneuver, or just, you know, chopping around here to push out? We always want, if the market is soaked up on that, I mean, there could be a lot of buying on the sidelines ready to go. They're probably waiting for that, you know, maybe a pullback, or just that little, you know, it might be a positive day. They buy it up through 42 again if you get a green candle, or a positive day. And then they flood back in the market, and this market just rockets up through 46 or even through 50. But to buy it here when potentially this leg's extended, it's been going up for a while, pretty much a good part of a month and a half, nearly. Month and a half from those lows at 21. It's not on the cards as a high probability setup, high probability entry up at this level. They do work out, obviously, but like we say, you know, we just want to put... It's about risk management, and I'd rather just see a bit more of a complex correction, whether it be lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, work its way back down to 30 or 34, back down to this zone, retest that breakout around that 30 mark, or just a bit higher, or whether it just holds that 38 and just comes in with a couple of, like this action, move down, pop up, lower high, move back down, really test the lows, retest the lows, another lower high in here, pops back up, builds that high low, and then I'd love to buy it in that action, because that's where you're going to see it's more likely it's going to start accelerating higher. And that's more of your complex correction where it actually holds higher levels around 40, 38, 40. That would be great if we can see that. But at the moment, I mean, the weekly's looking great. The weekly's up. The daily's up. It's getting a bit extended, like I said. The MAs are spreading apart. It's sort of pushed up away from the MAs. So that's why I'm looking for that reversion to the mean type of trade, pulling back to the averages. Or just to flush out a few people, really. And just increase that supply of buyers ready to come back in. All right, anything else, guys? That's gone through the few that we've wanted. Anything else you want to have a quick look at? Or any questions just on what we've covered there? Gee, that bud looks nice, doesn't it? The only thing about bud is it hasn't gone on with it. I think potentially if this move doesn't go on with it through that 25 mark, say 25.5, 26, up near the highs, you could get that acceleration through. So I'm just continuing on with that bud. If that can pop up through here and it just spikes up and pulls back, it may not be that great, and you may get, you know, a bit of a washout of some of these, because that's not typically strong. You can see these moves up in a couple of days, a few days all the way back down again. A couple of days up, good little correction back down. So it hasn't really got ahead of itself just yet. Like some of these moves up, they've been quite strong. You know, minor pullback for a couple of days, bang, quite a few days higher. It's probably, if anything, it could be at the start of its leg, and then you've just got to see if we're going to go up. Geez, it could be a good move anyway. I'm liking that, but I'd want to see if you're going to buy it through that 25. you'd want to see it smash up through 26, 27 and just see if it can really go on with it. That's going to drag in some more buyers. The buyers that are looking for more confirmation and not buying it on an inside level, more of buying it on a breakout trade, style trade through the highs into new highs. Is it new highs? No, it's not. It's nowhere near it. Buying it through 27, then you've probably got, there's no real resistance up until around that 40 mark, the whole number at 40, potentially 30, then 40. So either way, that's, I don't mind that. So what do you got there? WHA? No. RE Galaxy. ORE. It's Murray, isn't it? Murray? ORE. I know you're going to rub it in. Yeah, so RE took a good little partial. We were in that a while ago. And then we got stopped out of the second half just with this little pop down. Again, it was just probably just having that stop too close. But at this stage, when we got stopped out here, we'd see this little leg, this little push down. So we had it up here. It was going great guns with a little buy up through here off a high low, all looking good. Major high low on the weekly chart through around $3. Little daily high low, looking for that next leg up, which played out beautifully, and it's still really going. Yeah, g'day, how you going? So we had that little washout. I mean, that's where the market can do it time and time again. You just push up through the highs, starts to struggle a bit. It's got to take out that little low, that high low, washes a few people out like ourselves, and it's just gone on with it. So that was our secondary target up towards 5, which I don't know, but I think that would have added in some really handy gains. Let me just see. So we're not in this at the moment, RRE. So on that first trade, we booked around 15, 16%. The second leg, we got out at 418, just below here, which was stupid again. Way too tight. Low of, about 10 cents lower. And that booked about 21%. But look, it's gone on. We had a target just below that 5 mark, which you can see was just up at these highs, and it's just blasted through there even. Potentially would have taken its second part off up around that 490 mark. Anyway, it's booked in some really handy gains, but that one, that's a weekly chart you'd be looking at. Are we getting a bit extended here? I mean, I don't like to jump into something that's too low probability trade. And this is the thing. I mean, it could easily keep going, completely prove me wrong. Every chart you can see has different price actions, so it's really hard sometimes to analyze each price action. You just got to look at the history of the actual stock just to see how it sort of reacts. That looks like it's rolling over, for instance. The market's worked its way high. It looks like it's rolling over. It looks like it could be spend a lot of time below $1, and then bang, it turns on a dime, heads straight up to highs, straight back down, straight up, retests the highs, has a nice deeper correction, just washing out this high low at 3, and then starts to chop around a bit and building lower highs again, starts to pull back in, and you can see that little lower high there, and this move down like 1, 2, would have dragged, pushed it back out. A few of these buys from previously through here that have held it through all this, and looking for it to continue, probably washed them out of the market, and then boom, straight back up again. So sometimes there's sort of two moves. Let's just get a new chart. Markets can react two ways. I ideally, and I'm still getting my head around, for me, I like to see you move up, wash out with lower highs, and then get this lower high low in here. That's what I love to see, an entry through there. Sometimes they don't do that. They just have these two moves down and boom, they go straight up. So they're a bit harder to trade, but especially when you haven't broken. Let's just take a step back on that. Take all that out. When that's the push up, so that's your anchor here. The market does this in context of this anchor. It's still your longer term trends up. It just does these two moves down and then boom. It goes straight back up. It's a bit harder to trade because you sort of have to widen your risk a bit, potentially widen your risk, or you're just taking a chance that this is not, it's not going to continue low like with that third move down, or it's just going to completely capitulate. Sometimes it's a bit of a risk. What I like to see with this type of move is, it's just adding in that extra layer of confirmation, really. Does that make sense to you guys? So that's what I like to loot. That's a bit more of an aggressive trade, but that's pretty much what's happened here. You can see one pop up, lower low, boom, straight up to $5 on the weekly chart anyway. And it's fine on a weekly because you can drill it down to your dailies just to get an entry, which worked out through here, which is beautiful. So I hope that's making sense a bit, guys. Not in that. Long story short, Galaxy's another one that sort of gone on without us. And that because you had this really strong move up. And that's just, it's sort of blown through a lot of levels without giving that entry setup we'd like to see. And a lot of the times when you have this strong move up, it just blows through. You expect this deeper correction, and it hasn't done that. So this one is one that I wish I was on. I wish it gave me the setup, but it just didn't. It didn't give me something that I like to see. There's too many things happening for a high probability trade in my, for what I like to look at anyway. Just draw it up. So you've got a sort of a major zone through here. You've got this high low through here, which was good, but you still got these lower highs in play. And if you just draw that, and there's really, once that broke up, once you got to about here, it's really just that pullback on one day. One red candle, bang, straight back up. I'd like to see a bit more work, potentially, and then it go. So that was just a missed opportunity. And it's really just because it didn't set up. I mean, nothing wrong with this trade. Nothing wrong with this stock. I think if you go back a bit, that weekly's looking good. I wouldn't buy it up here. I would like to see that deeper weekly correction. Potentially come back down and test 240. Just get a few of these buyers back out of the market, put them back on the sidelines, build a longer term high low on the weekly potentially, and then buy into it. But before it breaks these highs, if it just continues up through here, through those highs, look, I'm inclined just to leave it completely. I just think it's has really only turned bullish in the last week on Metastock, yeah. So yeah, it's just dragging a few buyers in here. That could have been a nice little continuation entry. You know, that little push up through 260. And I was looking at it through there, potentially as an alert. But again, you know, that one day up. So a couple of days down, one day up, one day down. It's not really what I'd like to see. It's a bit more aggressive. Probably a bit really too aggressive for me, what I'd like to see. But it's played off quite nicely. Then now you're starting to get up towards those highs. So potentially there's going to be a bit of reaction up at these highs. Or just where we are, we might react lower, like I said, and just pull back. Yeah, pull back, potentially maybe like this. Touch down on that support at 240, still holding that trend up. Wash out a lot of these buyers that got in late. Potentially a lot of these buyers, put them back on the sidelines. Just put that increased supply of buyers. Remember, it's just about supply demand. All right, so those two, WHA, we're not in that. And I can't remember what I said on that. No, we're not in that. But I think this is getting closer. Now, do you like this one, Helen? I actually don't mind it. I think that's all the data anyway. So we can see it's quite new. It's the problem with the alert. Attila. G'day, Attila. If you're looking and listening to this, mate, how are you? G'day, Greg. How are you, mate? IPH, we'll look at that in a sec. Sorry. Yes, I did, if you're listening, by the way. Now, what is this one here? WHA. We're not in this, but I think it's looking good. We'll draw that up. It's starting to play out quite nicely. And the reason why we do like it, well, I like it anyway. You've had this little pop up. You know, it hasn't really washed out from the float. It hasn't washed out too many players. They're happy to hold it. So there's obviously good reasons why they want to keep it. It's pushed all the way out from here, pretty much finding that support, spending a good part of a month or so, month and a half, 2 months even, between, say, 30 and 40 cents. And we lift it off again, pushed all the way up to $1.10. So that's great. But what it's done here, and what I like, it hasn't really had a major pullback. That's only 1/3, potentially 30% of that move back from the high, of this leg up, sorry, from, say, a 30 up to $1.10. We've only had that pullback of about 30%. So we always look for a positive market within the first third or the top third of a rally. If it can hold above there, it's quite positive. If you tend to have a deeper, around that 50% of a move up, that retracement of a 50% move up, it's not as positive. So you sort of, the deeper the retracement, the less positive that move up. You know, the less positive the move up is, and the more you want to see on the upside before you tend to get in. Now this one here, I mean, it's quite positive. I think for me, if it can pop up through that, what's that high, just through there, then just especially from here, I think you've got a nice little buy. It's going to take up through $1, potentially push up through $1.10, and on she goes. You could have a 20% gainer on your hands before you know it. And what it's done really is spent a lot of time. You can spend that's about 2 months after this leg up finished, and the leg up spent probably about a month. Yeah, somewhere around a month. Actually, probably 2 months, isn't it? So that leg up took a little while. And then we've spent a lot of time just sort of consolidating those highs, holding those highs. Buyers are soaking up that selling pressure. So it's looking like there's still quite a few buyers in the, you know, Biden demand to really soak up any selling pressure that's coming through and just kick the back out of that contraction. And we like to see the market that's contracted with lower highs hold up at a level, even if it pulls back, and then you get this high low. I love seeing that. So ideally, this is a nice little one if we can push up through. I think it's around 98, isn't it? High 97, so yeah, ideally 98 would be nice. Yeah, I'd like to see it do a bit more work just here, say around that 90 level. And I think if you can push up through those highs at 98, I kind of like that. I might actually send out an alert. The only problem for me, and what I'm seeing, I just noticed it then, is this. See, it's had quite a good move up from, say, just above 70 up to around that 98 mark, 97. We're holding around this. The stochastics, that pressure up has been quite good, and it couldn't quite reach up to $1. It only fell a bit short. I'd ideally like to see those stochastics come off a bit and the sellers start to take hold and start to try to push the market down, but buyers soak it up. I'd love to see the buyers soak it up around 90 and these stochastics so they start to come down around, say, 50%. If they can do that and we hold up around 90, and I think this thing can easily turn and just rocket up. I think it could really take off. So a bit more work potentially, and I think that could go straight up through $1.10 and squeeze out all of these sellers that potentially are trying to push it back down again, or they're back on the sidelines watching it, just kicking themselves, going, "Oh, maybe we'd jump back in. The story's still good. Everything's looking great." On a move up through that 97, 98 mark, but we'll see. I think if you can remind me, I'll probably end up forgetting about this one. Let me just make sure I've got it on my list. No, we got it here. No, I've got that. I've got to look at that a bit closer now. Anyway, Greg, we'll look at IPH. How's everything going, Greg? Just remember, guys, if I start to yabber on about technical terminology, just let me know. That's looking good, mate. Just let me know. And I'll try to steer clear of that technical terminology and just try to use something a bit more cleaner. Now, that one there, 2016, spent a year pretty much coming down. So highs just before 2016. Sell off through 2016. Start of this year, it's still struggling. On the weekly, it's still potentially struggling a tad. I only say that if we just go back, and that's probably a weekly high. If we can just, and that weekly high is this candle here, okay? So we're just going to, because we can get it on a daily, we're just going to draw it up on a daily. All right. So a few things that I'm looking at here. That's your weekly lower high, okay? So you've had this move down. Oh. Let's just try that again. A bit too fast. It moved down. We've contracted back up. We've had this secondary move down off a lower high here. It's moved back up, and that's potentially brought in off this high low. It's brought in a few buys, but don't forget on the weekly that's your key level at the moment. And we've built another little lower high. We've pushed down. We've got all the way down to here really, in that foul swoop down. Which the one thing I do like, around that 440 zone, it's starting to hold up. And the thing is, you can pretty much classify this as a double bottom, a major double bottom with, as buyers are happy to step up. So this could be your line in the sand type of thing. Oh, okay, SHV. Oh, great. So this for me is more of you're starting to get that line in the sand type of move where people are going, okay, this is a level. I'm happy to buy it around that 440 level. You know, whether you're a fundamentalist or you're a technical trader or you're a blend of both like we are. You're a supply-demand trader, like we like to call ourselves now. I'm talking rubbish again. That there, once you got this secondary, you've touched it 1, 2, 3 times now. Even that little washout just through 440 is all nice little signs. And then you've got on this leg down, just remember you got this little lower high here, potentially this lower high here, and that's just been breached. And now we're coming off that high low. So whether we sit and bounce around between 510 and 440 is yet to be seen now. Could have been a nice little buy there with your risk held below here, and then just see if we can move up to 550, 510. If we get through 510, great. And the thing is, because of this major double bottom, there's a good chance we could start putting pressure on the sellers at 510. And potentially there's quite a bit, and you can see it on the weekly if we just go back a step. You know, there's been a lot of people put back on the sidelines, a lot of, you know, and a lot of reasons to start thinking there's a lot of demand there from the buyers ready to go back in. Whether they've been following it for quite a while, I don't know. But it'd be interesting to see over the coming days if this thing can push up to, like I said, this 510 mark. I'm guessing from here, and that's because of the double bottom. You know, we tested that level 3 times and we just broken. So this leg down, buyers have stepped in here, and then you're going to get buyers buying at higher levels, like we said. I'm not really too concerned about this level just below $5, this lower high, purely because the next target is going to be that weekly lower high at 510. So I expect this to sort of push up to 510. I mean, that's 30 cents. That's going to give you a good risk reward. It's going to be around 1-to-1 at the moment. But whether this is going to be the start of a major, you know, if we can breach that 510, or whether we're just going to chop, you know, range trade between 510 as we work our way down like this, and then start to lift again and work our way back up, maybe wash it out and then start to, you know, dragging a few buyers in, and they work their way back down as sellers take control. We don't know what's going to happen. It'd be great if we get this double bottom followed by that weekly high low. And we haven't got that just yet, have we? Nah. If I see the high low, I ideally like to see it just wash out that 510 mark first, and then pull back, build a major high low. Let me just take a step back, say from here. So we push up, 510, pull back, and then start holding that major high low and then working our way back up. So that's going to be potentially a major high low. Don't know where, we don't know, but that's the kind of price and action I'd like to see. And then I would suspect it's going to blast up through 510, especially if we breached it first, we washed it out. You know, you get this move up, wash out that level, pull back, bring in more buyers that have been, you know, because I'd say there's quite a bit of demand in buying, ready and raring to jump back into that market. I'd say there's been quite a few sellers being pushed out of the market, if that makes sense. As in, anyone that's wanted to sell it, I think we're running out of that selling supply, and I think the buying supply is going to be there, and they're really going to start to push this market higher, especially if we get that high low. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on there, Greg, I'd say. And if I don't, just remind me, because I want to keep an eye on this one too. All right. Tell you what, we might call it a day there. I'd say that's any questions on just what we spoke about. Any questions at all? Market's still kicking away. We're up 42. It hasn't done much since we've been talking. Just seeing where our stocks are at the moment. MG's doing well, so we've got quite a few. Looking good. Anyway, if there's no questions, we'll probably call it a day there, guys. Thanks very much for joining me. If you do have any questions, if you think of something later or you're reviewing it later, please send an email through to support@tradesetup.com.au, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It might need a time to make up something, but I'm sure I can. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. We'll see you back in on Thursday. Midday blues, everyone at lunch, exactly. I think that's what I'm going to now. All right, guys, we'll see you on Thursday. Cheers. Bye.